A policewoman's struggle who was humiliated by her own department at the roadside. A woman threw a can out of her car which fell on the road. The policewoman then said, "Ma'am, get out of the car and pick up the trash you threw." The woman asked, "Are you serious?" The policewoman said, "Yes, I am serious." The woman said, "If I don't do that," the policewoman said, "then I will fine you." The woman said, "It fell by mistake." The policewoman said, "That's why we say lazy people have to do double work. Get out immediately, otherwise I will fine you." And the woman got out of the car and threw the can into the dustbin. The policewoman said, "Thank you. Don't do this again." The policewoman started walking toward her vehicle. At that moment, the woman threw another can out of the car. The policewoman came back and said, "Do you think this is a game?" The woman said, "What are you saying?" The policewoman said, "Show me your license." The woman said, "You don't know who you are messing with." The policewoman said, "Oh, hurry, show your papers." A man seated in the driving seat came out of the car and showing his card said, "I am a lieutenant. Tell me your name and rank." The policewoman said, "I am a constable." The man said, "Better if we forget about this incident." The policewoman said, "Just give me your papers so I can fine you." The man said, "Give me the papers." The woman said, "What are you saying?" The man said, "Give me the papers quickly." The woman handed over the papers. The policewoman issued a fine slip. The man crumpled the slip and threw it away. The policewoman made a new slip and gave it. The man said, "Weren't you taught how to do your job?" The policewoman said, "The only way to do the job is to enforce the law." The policewoman went toward her vehicle. The man abused her. The policewoman returned and said, "Get into my car." The man asked, "Why?" The policewoman said, "Because you insulted the authority." The man said, "What will happen if you arrest me?" The policewoman said, "I don't know, but you won't get away." The policewoman handcuffed the man. The woman said, "Don't do that." The policewoman said, "Shut up or I'll arrest you too." The man said, "Call the colonel." The woman sitting in the car phoned the colonel and said that a lieutenant had been arrested by a policewoman at the roadside. The policewoman said, "This could have been resolved nicely, but you wanted it this way." The woman said, "When the colonel comes, you'll have to apologize." Or the policewoman said, "Show your card." The woman said, "For what?" The policewoman said, "To fine you for dirtying public places." The woman said, "I won't give my card." The policewoman said, "Then I will arrest you too." The woman gave her card. The policewoman also issued her a fine slip. At that very moment, the colonel's car arrived with a roar. The colonel greeted and asked, "What's going on here? Why is the lieutenant in handcuffs?" The policewoman said, "He disrespected authority." The colonel said, "How?" The policewoman said, "I fined him. He abused and humiliated me." The colonel said, "Will you arrest a lieutenant over such a small matter?" "Consider ranks," the policewoman said. "But sir, he humiliated me." The colonel said, "Anyone can make a mistake. Unhand him." The policewoman said, "Sir, I cannot unhand him." The colonel said, "Open the handcuffs immediately or I will arrest you for misuse of power." The policewoman said, "Sir, this is not true." The woman said, "It is true. He threatened us because of a can." The colonel said, "Obey my order. I won't say it again." The policewoman removed the man's handcuffs. The colonel said, "You are defaming the police in a public place." The policewoman said, "Sir, I am just enforcing the law." The colonel said, "Is your work to trouble your colleagues?" The man thanked the colonel. The colonel said, "Don't worry. Kindness is returned with kindness." A wireless message came for the colonel. The colonel said, "I must go now, but listen, constable, I will wait for you in my office. If you harass another officer, I will dismiss you." The colonel left. The woman said, "Brave corporal, will you say something?" The policewoman walked away without saying anything. The man said, "I will not allow you to go." The policewoman said, "Sir, I have to patrol." The man said, "Come here." The policewoman said, "I don't want further trouble." The man said, "You should have understood earlier. Now I will teach you obedience to orders. Now fine me." The policewoman apologized. The man said, "Hurry up." The policewoman made a fine slip. The man said, "Crumple it and put it in your mouth." The policewoman hesitated. The man said, "Do it quickly. Obey my order. Otherwise you will lose your job." The policewoman chewed the paper. The man said, "I hope you understand now. Go away from here." The policewoman spat out the paper and left. The woman said, "Very good. You showed her her limits." The man said, "Don't worry. Some people are like that." A few minutes later, the policewoman was kicking at a tire. A supervisor arrived and said, "Calm down. Don't take out your anger on the tire." The policewoman asked, "Who are you?" He said he was the new supervisor. The policewoman said, "Nice to meet you." The supervisor said, "Your professional record is very good." The policewoman said, "Yes, but my boss doesn't think so." The supervisor said, "Why do you say that?" The policewoman said, "Nothing. I have to go to work." The supervisor said, "Listen, if you tell me something I can help." The policewoman said, "No, I have to go to work." The policewoman drove off on patrol. A few minutes later, the supervisor stood outside the colonel's office. The colonel asked, "Who are you?" The supervisor said, "I am a lieutenant and I have been appointed here as supervisor." The colonel said, "Come sit." The supervisor sat and said, "I want to inform you about a problem I saw this morning." The colonel said, "You came with a report right away. This enthusiasm is good." The supervisor said, "This is not enthusiasm. This is my duty. I saw a policewoman being badly troubled and was told she had a fight with a lieutenant." The colonel said, "That lieutenant is a good officer, so my advice is don't spread rumors." The supervisor said, "This is not a rumor. I think if a junior officer is insulted, pressured to disobey the law, or interfered with in their duties, their complaint should be heard." The colonel said, "Young man, first you should learn whom to fight and whom not to." The supervisor said, "I must fight fight those who stand against the uniform. The colonel said, don't give a speech and go. The supervisor said, this is not a speech. This is my duty. The supervisor left. A few minutes later, the supervisor went to the policewoman and after asking about her condition said, I heard about your quarrel with the lieutenant. The policewoman said, yes, now you know that things are not running according to law. The supervisor said, yes, and I also know that if we stay silent, such people will keep insulting us. The policewoman asked, so now we should report them? The supervisor said, yes, absolutely. If you want, I will fully support you. The supervisor left. The policewoman drove out on patrol. A few minutes later, the man and woman were drinking alcohol at the roadside. The policewoman came to them and said, gentlemen, don't you know you cannot drink alcohol in public places? The woman said, wow, perfect policewoman again. The man said, oh, aren't you tired of harassing us? The policewoman said, this is not harassment. I am preventing someone from accidentally dying. The man said, yes, arrest me. The woman said, if you arrest him, the colonel will dismiss you. The man said, this time the colonel is not nearby. If you want to be brave, this is the right time. The policewoman said, I respect you and asked, are you making excuses? Are you scared? At that moment, the supervisor arrived and said, is everything okay here? The man stepped forward and said, I am a lieutenant. Officer, nice to meet you. Take this policewoman away from here. The supervisor said, sir, you are drunk and you also have a weapon. The man said, I am just celebrating a birthday. The man kissed the woman and then took the supervisor aside and quietly said, you should give me a favor. The supervisor said, that's not possible. The man took a wad of notes out of his pocket, handed them to the supervisor and said, here, keep this, sir, and let us go. The man returned to the policewoman and said, now get out of here. The supervisor said, I only collected evidence. The supervisor and policewoman both arrested the two and took them to the police station. A few minutes later, the colonel arrived and said, what is happening here? The man said, this policewoman arrested us without reason. The supervisor said, I arrested them because they had illegal weapons and they tried to bribe me and insult the policewoman. The colonel said, this is a lieutenant. The supervisor said, if you try to save these two, I will write this in my report and I have a lot of evidence against you. The colonel said, put them in the lockup and investigate. The man tried to get angry. The colonel said, sit down quietly. I gave you many chances. Now face the punishment. The policewoman said, thankfully, there are still people who respect the uniform. The supervisor said, finally, justice has been done. There must be respect for the police in the uniform. The man said, what will you gain from all this? The supervisor said, maybe nothing, but you people will stop abusing your positions. That is my promise. They took them for further interrogation.